sound like?
It's making noises like yang, 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 wing, 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 gang, 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 gang.
Oh, we get calls like this all the time at Beaver Heating and Air Conditioning. We can service and repair your heating and cooling needs, including geothermal. Family-owned and based in North Liberty, we service the corridor from new construction to duct cleaning and fireplace installation. You can call Doug at 331-5848. That's 331-5848. And leave it to Beaver.
Hi, this is Terry Larson of Lippitt-Krager Realtors. Where do you want to be when you are absolutely tired, ready to kick back and binge watch a show on Netflix? Cook one delicious meal, consume one delicious meal. Home. Home is where most of us want to be most of the time. And as your realtor, I'll help get you there. Visit the Lippitt-Krager website at lkriowa.com and look for me. I'd be honored to work with you.
In the electrical field, we know time is in high demand and often short supply. At Sittler's LED Supplies, we value our relationships with local contractors and electricians to evaluate jobs, create layouts, recommend and supply our in-stock products, and file incentive paperwork for your customers. How much time and money can Sittler's LED Supplies save your business? Call 1-800-426-3938 to talk to one of our lighting experts, or stop in, meet the team, and tour our facility at 111 Westview Drive in Washington.
There's always something awesome happening at $5 Pizza. Every day you can get a fresh hot pizza for just $5. You can get breadsticks, wings, cinnamon sticks, and more. Fresh, fast, and friendly service. Call ahead at 351-5555 and pick up your delicious pizza with no waiting. $5 Pizza, Highway 1 West in Iowa City. Order 10 or more delicious pies and they'll deliver. That's what's happening at $5 Pizza on Highway 1 West in Iowa City. Call 351-5555 to order your pizzas now.
Hey, Jordan Sekifetz here for Dodge Street Tire and Auto. Is your vehicle running crazy? My dad Brian and his crew can fix it. For over 25 good years, Dodge Street Tire and Auto has helped friends and neighbors give their cars a second wind. Bring your car to the trusted pros at Dodge Street Tire and Auto. When your car needs help fast, beat a path to Dodge Street Tire and Auto at the corner of Dodge and Church Street.
Hi, I'm Bonnie. You may know me from KCJJ's Friday morning show as the psychic from Atlanta. I try to help people understand the happenings in their lives and what to expect next. I use astrology, numerology, and my clairvoyancy to give you the most accurate information possible. If you need guidance or just answers to specific questions, call me for an appointment.
Bonnie Reynolds is at the Coralville Heartland Inn right now. To book an appointment, call 319-351-8132. That's 319-351-8132.
From the Harty and Stalker Studios in the heart of the Hawkeye Nation, this is the mighty 1630 KCJJ, Iowa City.
Here is your KCJJ forecast today. Mostly cloudy, hot, and humid today. We're headed to a high of 88 this afternoon. The wind a little breezy out of the south at 15 to 25, gusting to 30 today. Tonight, a cold front's going to blast through here, and that's going to bring some showers and thunderstorms this evening. And a couple of those could be strong to severe. Our low tonight down to 48 tomorrow. Sunny and cooler, high of 60. Scattered storms are possible tomorrow night. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Currently, it's 71.
If we get severe storms, of course, we'll continue to give you all the information continuously, I should say, give you all the information from severestudios.com, Mace Michaels and his crew, and also Channel 7, KWWL, along with our own resources here. Weather brought to you by the Westport Touchless Auto Washes. AllHawkeyes.com brought to you by Premier Automotive in North Liberty. Hit a deer. Call Premier. Steve Anderson, Hawkeye Title and Settlement. Mike's Lock and E-Keys for cars. GT Car and his crew at Supple Siding and Remodeling. Sittler's LED Supplies. Supple's Flowers, the home of 1-800-800-ROSE. The Ox Yoke Inn. Zephyr's Printing and Design and Print and Ink on the Ped Mall, and Big Dog TV and Internet, serving all of eastern Iowa with Dish, DirecTV, Internet, and more. Don't call an 800 number. Call local. Call Kevin and his crew at Big Dog at 338-6600. From allhawkeyes.com, here's Pat Harty.
Hi, Pat Harty.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing.
How you doing?
I got a feeling this is going to be a day where you're doing a lot of TV watching during this show.
Why?
Just because of all the
it's,
activity.
Yeah.
All the political activity.
Yeah.
But this is a sports show.
Yeah.
So let's get your sport hat on. We're going to be sportsing really hard here.
You just got done playing Suter for a week. You were gone almost a week.
I was gone
5 days.
5 full days.
5 days. I mean, you're
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Monday, 4 days.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You got back on Tuesday? Okay, you got 4 days.
No, I got back on Monday. When did I get back?
You got back here on
Got
Tuesday.
back on Monday. And you came back to work on Tuesday.
Yeah.
There you go.
We had to drag you kicking and screaming. But
You should have stayed away longer. So,
you just need to take those kind of things more often.
Why?
It'll improve.
What are you telling me?
It'll
What are you telling
improve
me,
your
Suter?
demeanor.
You had it? You had it with me? My demeanor's as bad as it's always been.
4 days didn't help?
No, I got the same demeanor.
The longer you're away,
What's wrong with my
demeanor you get.
What is wrong with my demeanor?
So has the narrative changed at all with 4
What?
days away? Is it just still
5 days away.
Is it still just misery and get me out of here, or is it?
No, I actually I wasn't bothered. I didn't get any phone calls.
Here we go. I see it's coming. I saw that one
just
coming.
like KGYM.
I spotted that one
Neither
right.
one of us got any phone calls.
I spotted that
over
one
the
right
last
away.
5 days.
I shot that one down. It was coming in, and I shot it down. You got to do better.
Pick the low-hanging fruit.
You got to do better. He's got to do better than that. You saw that one coming, didn't you?
I did.
That was very transparent and predictable. So,
I was going to let him finish. I'm going to let you finish. But
all right, so
that kills the first 3 minutes. Now,
take off.
A hard-hitting Hawkeye analysis. Go.
For Saturday's game, or for what we heard yesterday?
Let's do what we heard yesterday. Good, solid synopsis.
They were productive during the bye week. Kirk changed things up a little bit, and I've already seen some stories written about how that should make them better. I mean, I'm done. They've done so many different things in strategy and approach, and it doesn't really. Remember when they did just something different with a bowl game every year?
Yeah.
We're going to get down there earlier. We're going to get down there later. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I don't think. I mean, some of that stuff matters, but I think the fact that they like what they saw during the bye week might be something that's unique to this team or what have you. Maybe it's coming together. But with Iowa football, I'm just wait and see. You just never know what you're going to get. I still am sticking to 8-4, maybe 9-3, but we'll see. I'll be surprised if this team goes 5-7 or even if Nate Stanley would get hurt. I'd be surprised with the schedule if this team went like 5-7 or 4-8. I think there's enough pieces, and I would like to think that their backup quarterback could be at least serviceable at this level.
I would like to think. The thing that concerns me, I guess, is last year, we were 4-5 in the Big Ten, and I know this is a different team, different year, blah, 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 but still, we got to show that we can beat the Minnesotas, the Indianas,
I think there's
and the
a lot of
Marylands.
assuming going on, and we in the media do it.
Sure.
I think the media, quite honestly, leads the way with the assuming that this team is back. But I also think the narrative from last season, that team wasn't as good as what a lot of us have written and said about it once they won those last two. It's like those last two games changed everything. It's like they erased all the pockmarks and everything, but really it didn't. I don't think the Nebraska had quit by then and was horrible as we're seeing now. Boston College was a nice, good road win at a bowl game. I guess you can't really call it
a bowl game
since it was a neutral site. Yeah, but they did win it, what have you. So, but that still doesn't change. Like I said, to me, the most telling stat from last season was a record 4-5, and that to me,
that's right.
That to me is the story of last season. If you want to look at it from a somewhat critical point of view, they went 4-5 in the Big Ten. They lost to Purdue. They lost at home to Purdue. So, and it's a lot of the same pieces. So I'm just wait and see. I think this team has a chance to be. I think it's chance to be special. They lost to Wisconsin at home. It's going to be hard to be special.
Unless they run the table.
Yeah, but I don't see them beating Ohio State, and they'd have two losses.
No.
So, they've lost if they ran the table, they would still be short of what the 2002 team did. They wouldn't be, they lost that chance. But they still have a great chance to have a good season, and they still, like I said, I still think 7-2 wins the West this year.
I think, anytime Iowa gets to 10 wins, it's a pretty good season.
I think anytime they get to 9 wins, it's a pretty good season. I know some may disagree, 9-4. I mean, you can't complain about 9-4 at Iowa. I'm sorry. I mean, now, I guess you could if the losses were Iowa State, Nebraska, maybe a MAC opponent to begin the season or something like that. And then, I mean, I guess it depends on where the losses come. But for the most part, 9 wins, to me, is at least satisfactory here. I find it funny that a program that for 40 years under 2 legendary coaches averaged a little over 7 wins, and some fans think that 9 is unacceptable. I just have never figured that out when we've been accepting 7.5 for 40 years.
Because we're all accepting mediocrity when we support our team.
But I don't think 9-4 is mediocre.
Well,
to
I
me,
don't
mediocre is 5-7.
I
6-6 maybe, or 6-7. I mean, look up the definition of mediocre. I don't think winning 3 out of 3/4 of your games is mediocre. I don't think really 8-5 is mediocre. I think it's average to slightly above average. Mediocre to me is below average, and they haven't been.
I looked it up.
What's the definition of mediocre?
My career.
Well, here he goes. Yep, get me out of here. Kill me. Hey, they got some guy out there with something that I think would hurt you if you wanted to go. Have him just cut your vocal cords and it's over. They got like a crew of 4 out there, and there's one working and the other 3 are staring at it.
They're supervising.
They're supervising. One's pointing, hey, that bush next, and what have you, and they're sweating. It's hot. Why don't you get in some water, Captain? Or let them come in and
always come in and get water.
And what kind of water would they be getting here?
They'd be getting crystal clear bottled water,
yes,
Pat.
I know. That's
hello.
Mediocre. 1600 a.m.
Jesus,
I didn't see that.
I didn't
Very
see that.
harsh.
I didn't see that coming either.
To all the listeners out there who make these kind of calls, Pat's got to work with these people.
I do.
Come on.
It's all one big happy media.
One big happy media
clan.
stew.
We're a media clan.
Yeah.
So, but as far as yesterday, was there any news? No, not really. I mean, trying to think. He did confirm the Keyshawn Bryant thing, which was not. I mean, that's. I think that was pretty much decided when Kirk said in August. Well, he won't be joining us until possibly after the break. I think pretty much it's just a weird timing situation. I don't remember ever a kid transferring a month. How far are we into school? A little over a month?
No, I don't think quite. Are we?
That's just weird.
Well, we are.
Because it starts late August, so it's just weird timing for a transfer. Now, I don't know if that means he's staying for the rest of the semester. I didn't talk to him. I just saw his tweet didn't indicate what he was doing exactly. But it's unfortunate, I guess, whenever a kid transfers because something's not working out. But they're fine at running back.
And he wasn't. I mean,
he wasn't
the writing was on the wall.
He wasn't going to play.
No.
I mean, he wasn't going to play. I mean, he was injured most of last year, so it's like he kind of maybe got into a hole to begin with. But I mean, they've got 3 running backs that they like right now, and none of them are stars, but I think they're, like we've said, they're all decent. They're all quality performers and what have you. They're not Eno Benjamin, and I mean, that's what's going to be a narrative that's going to drive me nuts.
I'm so sick of hearing about him.
I mean, hats off to him. He ran for over 300 yards this past Saturday against Oregon State. Eno did. And I will say that Oregon State is maybe one of the worst Power 5 teams in the nation, but that still doesn't take 300 yards is 300 yards.
It's still something nobody had ever done at Arizona State.
And I'm sure Eno would be looking really good here. But it didn't work out. I mean, he violated Kirk's trust, and now he's happy, I assume, where he is. And Kirk looked pretty happy yesterday. He was joking around and what have you. Oh, one thing, I wrote about this today, so I may as well plug. I mean, I wrote about Ozzie Simmons, which I do about every 10 years or so. That's when you know you've been doing it for a long time. I do this about every 10 years.
Yeah, it's about time to write about Ozzie again.
I just do it because I just think sometimes, and I did have a couple of people reach out to me like, wow, I never had a clue that this was how this. So that felt kind of good because I know when I'm writing this, probably at least 60, 70% of my readers know this or they know something of it. But you can't.
I think that they know something of it. Yeah.
But I did have some reach out and say I had no clue this was at the history of this and what have you. And I talked to Kirk about that. And what Kirk does before all his trophy games is he has a young player new to the program research the tradition of each of the bowls. And let's face it, I mean, the Floyd's different than the other 3. I mean, the other 3 don't have near the history. I mean, the Heroes thing is a neat thing where they pick somebody from each fan base and what have you. But to me, Floyd is arguably the best trophy tradition in sports because of its roots. And it's rooted in racism and violence. And the kind of stuff that Ozzie Simmons went through, and I'm not saying that racism still exists today. We get it beat in our head every day. I mean, it's there. It's part of our fabric, unfortunately. But the stuff that Ozzie Simmons went through, black players don't have anything close to that. I mean, it's not. Yeah. It's just a completely different world now. I mean, Minnesota, they are on the wrong side of history when it comes to Ozzie Simmons and Jack Trice. Mm-hmm. I mean, they killed Jack Trice for more or less. I mean, the injuries he suffered in that game in 1923, all the cheap shots and whatever, caused internal bleeding, hemorrhaged lungs, and he died. And then 12, 13 years later, Ozzie Simmons plays in that game up in 34, and it was, by all accounts, I've researched it, I've done a ton of reading on this stuff, and I mean, they basically beat him. They cheap shotted him through the whole game, and by the end of that game, Ozzie Simmons, I took a quote from an interview he had in 1989. He said by the end of that game, Iowa fans were ready to come on that field, and because they were so pissed at how he was being treated. And then remember when Clyde Herring put out that quote leading into the game the next year, that if the officials allow the same tactics to go on, that he's not sure what the fans won't. And then that's what led to the Minnesota governor, Olson, coming out saying, wow, this is getting out of hand. And then he came up, they wagered the pig, and one thing led to another. But without Ozzie Simmons, you don't have Florida Rosedale. I mean, because it had to get really bad. It had to get worse before it got better. And and then the 35 game, granted Iowa lost 13-6, but no incident. It was played. Then the next year Iowa lost 52-0 to Minnesota. Minnesota was really good back then, and
they were
Nebraska,
one of the best.
They were Ohio State before Ohio State. I mean, in the 30s, 40s, 50s. I think they won their last title in 61, Bobby Bill and what have you. But, Minnesota was a huge power, but they are on the wrong side of history in some of this stuff. And the other thing about Ozzie Simmons and Floyd is the beauty of it is that he stood up to violence and racism, but Iowa stood up with him at a time when most universities wouldn't. And that's what I've always admired the most about the University of Iowa, why I'm proud to be associated with it. As somebody my brother went there, and I've covered the beat for years. But Iowa, 1895, Iowa had blacks on its football roster. I mean, Alabama didn't get its first black until Wilbur Jackson in the late 60s, early 70s. And now it's ironic, Alabama's roster is all black.
People around
pretty much, not all black,
but yes, I know what you're saying.
People around the state, if you talk to all those guys in Iowa City and whatever, but this state also gave birth to the American Nazi Party in Davenport.
Well, you're just killing a buzz. Why are we doing
No,
that?
I'm just saying that I'm proud to be affiliated with this university and with this county.
But what does it have to do with the Nazis in Quad Cities? Help me.
I'm just saying that
Suter, why is he going
Iowa
this direction?
City has always been different than the rest of the state.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's Nazis all over the state. Do you? Is that what you're saying, that Iowa City is the only place where there's not Nazis?
No, I'm just saying that they gave birth to the Nazi Party in Davenport, and you've got some guy on the west part of the state that is suspect.
Okay, so now we've gone from talking about Iowa back in the 30s, and
now
we're talking about we're talking about Steve King, I assume, right?
I just pointed out that this is a very special part of the state and doesn't necessarily reflect the entire state.
Jack Trice was playing at Iowa State. Johnny Bright played at Drake. 3 of the biggest racial incidents involving black football players happened right here. Well, Johnny Bright was hit, I believe, by a Tulsa player, if I'm not mistaken. But 3 of the most publicized and influential incidents, Jack Trice, Ozzie Simmons, and Johnny Bright. That's pretty interesting when you think about it. The state of Iowa as a whole, has been at the forefront of this stuff. Because let's face it, I'm old enough to remember, barely old enough to remember Wilbur Jackson. He had a weird number, like 83. And I remember him playing for Alabama, and he was like the only black guy on the team. And little did I know back then, as a 4 or 5-year-old watching TV, that he was the first black player at Alabama. And that's not that long ago. The grandparents of a lot of these players on the Alabama roster right now grew up in a time when their kids couldn't have played at Alabama. That's what's true. And whereas Iowa, Kenny Holbrook from right up there in Tipton, Iowa, 1895. They've been, and I've just always respected the university for doing that.
Yeah, me too.
And Iowa State and Drake.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
John, the Drake player was had got his jaw broken by an Oklahoma A&M.
That's
now
right.
Oklahoma State.
You're right. I knew it was in Oklahoma. I just had the wrong school. That's right. Yep.
I can remember. I wasn't old enough to see this, I don't think, but I was. If I was a baby. But there was a photo.
In the Des Moines Register, a sequence shot.
Register had the
you could
thing
probably Google
showing
it, Captain.
the frame by frame
Yes.
of this player sucker punching him and breaking his jaw.
Oh yeah, it was so blatant. Yep.
But I've seen that in archives of the Register, and it's just unbelievable.
Oh, it's a famous photo. It was got a lot of publicity.
But at any rate, there's that.
Well, thanks for updating
You're
me on
welcome. I had something else, but I can't think of.
Well, if you think
right
about
now,
it, we're on for 6 hours, so call us back.
It'll come back to you.
You betcha. About 4 this afternoon.
All right.
Between 3 and 4 during the gym class.
Thank you.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Captain is back with a vengeance.
You're on the
I'm going
air.
to call this show should be called Captain and His Minions. What do you think, Suter?
Okay.
Hello.
I know it's late now, but I hate Davenport Nazis.
I don't.
Actually, their first.
That's not a bad name.
Their first semi-pro baseball team was the Davenport Nazis.
I thought you were going to say not a bad name for a band, but do you like that, the Davenport Nazis? Would you go see them play?
I'm sorry I ever brought it up.
I just thought it was weird that we went from
because I was just pointing out that
I know
the universities in this and this particular university were at odds with the rest of the state.
No, okay, you're right. But I've always been fascinated when I watch SEC games.
But then another tie-in you have is hired Hayden Fry, who broke the color barrier in the.
And I'm guessing that probably was a straw in his hat when he was interviewing.
I'll bet it was.
Because the people here.
Was that Jerry Levias?
Jerry Levias, 1965 or 64, something like this. Yeah, and that fit well with the Iowa culture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Duke Slater was a hero and a legend at Iowa 60 years before a black player played at Alabama. And whenever I watch SEC games, maybe I'm a little weird. I look and I see that both rosters are probably 80% black.
Mm-hmm.
And 50 years ago, they were 100% white because nobody wanted the black. It's amazing how that's changed. I mean, it really is. I mean, and the more time that's put between that era, I think it's easier. I'm amazed at how the SEC schools were able to quickly overcome that part of their history and start getting that many blacks to play there.
Yeah.
I mean, now the parents aren't even old enough to remember probably how bad. Well, a lot of them still are, but you know what I mean, though. The more you get, the more distance you get between when it happened, it's easier. But like I said, I remember Wilbur Jackson. You can Google him. Wilbur Jackson, Alabama, running back. He had the weird number. First black to play for Bear Bryant, and it was like the Brady Bunch was on by then, I think. I mean, the Brady Bunch was on before Alabama. Seriously, the Brady Bunch.
Yeah. Hated the Brady
I didn't
Bunch.
really like the Brady Bunch. I did.
Not at all.
Marcia was
suspect.
No, but she was fun during junior high.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Pat, it would be fantastic if you could write an article with all these dates and Iowa's importance, Iowa State, everybody, Drake, and something that, it would give us pride, I guess. It should give the state of Iowa, well, this part of the state anyway. And, who knows? Maybe the Gazette or the Register will pick it up. But that'd be a cool article to write.
I don't know if I don't think a newspaper. I know I agree that it would, but I don't really think the newspaper. Not in this day and age. I mean, we're kind of competition and stuff like that, and I don't think they would. Plus, I did a huge. When I worked at the Press Citizen about 10 years ago, I did a huge project on the history of the black athlete at Iowa. I mean, I wrote like 5 or 6 different stories on how Iowa was at the forefront of racial equality and how they used athletics as a way to embrace equality and what have you. I probably did 5 or 6 different stories on that. But no, that's right. But there is a lot in this state to be proud of. I mean, there really is. But no, the Gazette and the Register, they would have their own people do stuff like that. But no, I think you've got. I think you're right though in thinking that there is something to be written there about, and it has been. There's been stuff written. I don't want you to think that we're going through uncharted territory. A lot of this has been addressed. No. But, like I said, you could maybe Google, and if you want to read some of that stuff, my guess is you could find that on the Internet. If you Googled my name, Press Citizen, History of the Black Athlete, I think a lot of that stuff might come up, and you could read it, because I did extensive research and interviewed a lot of different people. I wrote a story about Kenny Holbrook, a black player from Tipton, 1895. I mean, it was just, but yeah, there's a lot of history there. You're right.
Yep, that's cool. All right, Pat, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's there is a lot of history, and like I said, it was brought to my attention. I mean, the Jack Trice story, I've always been intrigued by that story. As sad as it is, I mean, what is it with the University of Minnesota in the 20s and the 30s?
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll take a break.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that was fast.
Yeah.
Mighty 1630, KCJJ, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
It's Adam Leska, Wells Fargo Advisors with the markets.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Stocks finished mixed for the day on Tuesday. The Dow climbed 122 points yesterday to finish up at 26,773 points. S&P 500 slipped a point yesterday to 2,923. And the Nasdaq Composite was down 37 points to close at 7,999 points. The Dow extended gains and notched a new intraday high amid easing trade tensions. 8 of 11 sectors closed in positive territory, with utilities and consumer staples leading advancers. Industrials outperformed as investor sentiment saw a boost from the trade deal between U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Caterpillar climbed 1.7% yesterday to finish up at $154.82 a share, while Boeing rose 1.1% to just over $386 a share. Technology shares rebounded from recent weakness as Intel rallied 3.6 yesterday. In earnings, Pepsi slipped 1.8% to $108 a share after the beverage maker topped Wall Street forecast on top and bottom lines, but reduced its full-year guidance. In other corporate news, Amazon was down 1.7% yesterday after announcing an increase of its minimum wage for all U.S. employees. Looking at the market here today, Wednesday, October 3rd, major averages are poised to advance this morning as investors once again digest optimistic statements from Fed Chair Jerome Powell and easing Italian budget concerns. Currently, the Dow is up 158 points. S&P is up 14 this morning, and NASDAQ is trading up 41 points on the session. On the data front, a report showed private payrolls increased by 230,000 in the month of September. That number was above consensus estimates of 184,000. Separately, mortgage applications were flat in the most recent week. Taking a look at earnings today here, Lennar Corp is flat this morning even after the home builder topped Wall Street profit projections. In other corporate news, Michael Kors is adding 1.6% following an analyst upgrade. European markets are firmly higher here at mid-session following reports that Italy's draft budget deficit may come in lower than expected. Italy's FTSE MIB is rallying 1.1% near mid-session, while the Italian debt is advancing following a 4-day sell-off that had lifted the 10-year government bond yields to their highest level in more than 4 years yesterday. Overnight in Asia, Japan's Nikkei 225 dropped 0.7% as automakers lagged following disappointing September auto sales in the U.S. Treasuries are lower here with the yield on the 10-year note up 3 basis points. That's up to 3.08%. In commodities, crude is adding 0.1% to $75.29 a barrel. And lastly, gold is gaining 1.3%. That is trading at $12.02 an ounce. Once again, this has been Adam Haluska with Wells Fargo Advisors, LLC, member SIPC. If you're in the Iowa City, Coralville area, we can be reached at 319-338-3799. Or you can always come in and see us, Adam Haluska, Corey Urian, Ted Stoley, and Daryl Courtney. We're at 501 12th Avenue, Suite 201 in Coralville, Iowa.
Iowa City's news first, 24 hours a day at 1630 KCJJ.com. Powered by Lucky's Market at the Iowa City Marketplace.
Here is your KCJJ forecast today. Mostly cloudy, hot, and humid today. We're headed to a high of 88 this afternoon. The wind a little breezy out of the south at 15 to 25, gusting to 30 today. Tonight, a cold front's going to blast through here, and that's going to bring some showers and thunderstorms this evening. And a couple of those could be strong to severe. Our low tonight down to 48 tomorrow. Sunny and cooler, high of 60. Scattered storms are possible tomorrow night. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Currently, it's 71.
Weather brought to you by the Westport Touchless Auto Washes. AllHawkeyes.com.
We're going to have a 40-degree drop in temperature today.
Yeah.
I might have to turn my air back on. I had my heat on 2 days ago. Now, will you have your air on today at 88?
Oh, yeah.
In my house,
hell yes.
My upstairs will get hot. Yeah, I'll have to turn the air on if it gets too bad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have it on now, though.
I don't have mine on.
I should have put it on.
No, I've had my heat on 2 days. I have it on recently. We haven't needed it, but I had it on 2 days ago. I woke up and it was like 61 degrees in my house.
That's time for the furnace.
And it was working fine, but this feels like late July, early August is weather right now.
Yeah.
But it ain't.
It ain't. And we could have some severe weather. If we do, of course, we'll cover it continuously.
Who will be in here? Was that Molly and Tommy, or is that you working from home? How do you guys got it planned?
Pretty much Molly and Tommy and Mace.
Well, no, not if it's tonight.
What happens if it's tonight?
It'll either be me or Tommy.
There you go. Bring Feeney in.
Tommy is 2 blocks away, so...
Yeah.
2 blocks away.
Well, a little more than that.
And it's Mace.
Where's he live, in a cornfield?
If he cuts through, it's very close.
Where does Tommy live?
Just off, Sycamore, the little roundabout.
Yeah.
And then he lives in the apartment
So
complex.
instead of going right to go to your place, you go left on the roundabout? You know how you go right to keep going down to your place? On the roundabout?
No, you would go all the way to the right by the soccer fields.
Okay, but I'm talking about when you're going Sycamore, heading south on Sycamore past Alexander Miller.
Then you would go...
left.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Oh, he lives over there. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I didn't even know. But can you get from those places by going... Can you get from those places to here by going east, or do you have to go back on the circle?
If the soccer fields are open,
okay.
you can cut through.
It's another one of those things, though, which seems like there's so many of these where you have to kind of go out of your way to get... Which is notorious for Iowa City. That was the one thing I had to adjust to when I moved here, was just to get from point A to point B, you had to go to like point X and Y, because just weird traffic patterns I had to get used to.
Hello.
Hey, Pat.
Yeah.
You're talking about famous baseball players from Iowa. I bet you don't know the name of the famous pitcher from Middle Amana, Iowa.
Little Amana?
Yeah.
Are you speaking of the gentleman that owned a restaurant in Homestead, Mr. Zuber?
No, it's Bill Zuber.
Yeah, Bill Zuber, yeah.
Little Amana. Is that, no, not Ed Watt was from Iowa City. Bob Filler was from Van Meter. I'm going down the list. There's not a lot to choose from. Who are we talking about?
Suter got it.
Bill Zuber.
Never even heard of Bill Zuber.
Really?
Hey, Pat.
Hey, what?
Did you see that Cubs game?
Yes, I'm wearing a Cubs shirt right now. An old ratty one like that.
How come you're not talking about that?
Because it's the All Hawkeye show.
Man, did they stink it up.
I know, man. I wish they were playing the Cardinals, but that couldn't. If they were, I would have felt a lot better if that was a game against the Cardinals.
Me too.
Just, but I'll take stinking up with.
When the Cardinals make the playoffs, they win.
Not always, but no, you're right. The Cardinals have a much better tradition than the Cubs.
This is true.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Cannot argue.
But the Cubs, I had no hope of them winning either one of these games. Both games went exactly. The Cubs can't score. I mean, they weren't going to beat Milwaukee in a series.
No.
That's the kind of series I danger them getting. They can't score. They have no offensive cohesion. I saw a stat last night, I believe, that the Cubs were second in the league this year in being shut out behind the Orioles, who finished 65 games below 500. I mean, the Cubs have serious offensive chemistry issues right now. But you can't. But I'm also talking about a team that won 95 games and made the playoffs for the fourth year in a row.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's time to panic or overhaul. But they obviously have issues on offense. Pitching,
they need to do something.
Pitching, I'm not. They had a lot of injuries on pitching, and they had to patchwork it and hold it together. But I had no hope that they were going to win either one of these games, and they went exactly. I just thought they were going to. They can't score. They just cannot score.
Hello.
Hey, it's the real lonely old grandpa there.
So do we have to make more cardinal ribbing? Is that where we're going?
No.
All right.
No.
All right.
I saw a statistic today that in 25% of their games, the Cubs scored either 0 or 1 run.
Well, yeah, and you heard what I just said, that they were second in the league behind the Orioles in being shut out this year. And the Orioles were 65 games below 500.
The Orioles are hapless
Horrible.
at best.
Here's what I fear as a Cardinals fan. You've got 2 really great middle of the lineup bats available in free agency, and Manny Machado.
Yep.
And what's his name with the Washington Nationals?
Bryce Harper. I'd rather have Machado because they got to get rid of Addison Russell. I don't think he's worth.
Oh, he's gone. He'll
gone.
never. I bet he doesn't play in baseball.
Yeah, and if some of this stuff is true and what have you, but perception's a big part of it, and he's a 240 or 250 hitter at best.
Yeah.
So he's just not been good enough to maybe withstand a lot of the baggage. So he's gone. So
one thing we know, one thing we've learned as baseball fans is that Theo Epstein doesn't fool around.
No, he doesn't.
He made that team better down the stretch, as we talked about the other day, by acquiring Hamels and
Daniel Murphy.
Murphy was a difference.
He was huge
down the stretch.
He was. I love both. I love both of those.
He would have looked real good in the Cardinals.
I would love for Daniel Murphy to re-sign with the Cubs, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Probably not.
Probably not. He's a bit of a not a vagabond, but just a.
Well, I just think he's going to ask for too much money, and someone's going to be willing to give it to him. Whereas the Machado, I'm not real optimistic. I would love to see it, but I think he's going to stay with the Dodgers. Watch the Yankees sign him, watch the Yankees.
I don't think the Yankees will, just because they just don't have cap room.
I hope so. I hope that's the case. I don't follow it that closely. And their shortstop, Gigi Gregorius, he ain't bad. I mean, he's good. He's not, of course, Manny Machado, but I would love to see him on the Cubs. You imagine him?
You watch. The Cubs are going to get one of those 2 players.
I'd rather have Machado over Harper. I would much. To me, Harper fits into too much of what the Cubs are. Great at times, but there's also stretches where Harper just can't hit and he strikes out. And the Cubs need more contact, manufacture run type hitters. They don't have enough of those. I've been saying that all year. They don't have enough high contact hitters who can move the ball, advance the runner, and what have you. They don't have anyone who can steal bases. Everything's either get on, double, hopefully, but it is what it is.
That was a hell of a game last night.
It was.
It just really was. And I look for more of the same tonight with the Yankees and the A's. I just would love to see the
A's win.
A's upset the Yankees.
It could happen. Baseball is a weird thing. It could definitely happen.
Well, it could, just like last night. I mean, you've got a team who nobody gave Oakland a chance for postseason play at the beginning of the season, and here they are having to go on the road to play a one and done game
against a Yankee team that is a better version of the Cubs in a way. The Yankees go through stretches where inexplicably they don't score a lot of runs, but it just takes one game. It takes one pitcher being hot, and we shall see. I mean, was.
Pat, did you stay up last night and watch the end of that game?
Oh yeah, I was.
Me too.
Yeah, what time did it end?
12:30. I think.
God, was it that late? Yeah,
it sure was.
I stayed up, and I went pretty much right after that. I mean, I was just never optimistic though. Never felt. There was a couple times when they had 2 runners on, but then they just can't hit with even Ben Zobrist.
And they had the bases loaded, and when they didn't score there,
just how many ground balls did they hit to second and third base? I mean, it was just one thing after another. And now the Cub fans are like, fired Shelley Davis. I don't know. I mean, to me,
there's talk about Joe Madden.
Well, there's talk about he and Theo not seeing eye to eye and him walking, not getting fired, more him walking. But I mean, okay, if Joe Madden walks, do they hire Joe Girardi?
Well,
that would be my pick. I mean, that's
as a Cardinal fan, I'll always be indebted to Joe Girardi the day Darryl Kyle.
Yeah, I remember
died.
that. I remember watching the game that day.
He was a player for the Cubs at that time, and went out on the field and told the fans there won't be any baseball today.
And there had been some friction between the two teams right around that time, even more than usual. And Joe Girardi, he stood tall that day. I will agree.
Yeah, he did. Gopher football. I love that story on Ozzie Simmons that you wrote.
I've always been fascinated by it.
But it needs dusting off because Minnesota very rightly has been cast over the decades as a very racist state, and the proof is there for everyone to see. And as you rightly mentioned, this is directly what led to the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy.
Without this, we don't
cool the tempers.
Cool the tempers.
Hawkeye fans were going to take it to them. And Minnesota wasn't the only one. There were issues over the years with Illinois.
Iowa was the exception to the rule. Clearly.
Yeah.
Part of the reason the Steubenville Trio came to Iowa is because Ohio State didn't have room for all three of them, and Iowa took them. Now, I've read different versions of why. There's been talk about they didn't want to have three black players at a time, because Ohio State did have black players on its roster too, whereas Iowa said, we don't care, we'll take all three of them, the Steubenville Trio. And Ohio State did have, I don't know about back then, did Ohio State have a better pick of the crop than Iowa did?
I think so.
They weren't the power, though. They weren't the power that they are now. It was early 50s. They hadn't. But no, the Steubenville Trio came here because Cal Jones wanted to play with his two college buddies, his two high school buddies. And I've always thought that was a neat story.
Yeah. And a couple weeks ago, the 1958 National Championship football team gathered.
And somebody told me Willie Fleming looked great.
He did. We had a luncheon with them.
I want to try. Dirk, can you find somebody to help me get him on here?
Yes.
I would like to try. I'd love to try to.
That'd be great.
I'd love to try to get Willie on Friday. If you could help me.
One of the players who worked as MC at the luncheon I attended is pretty good at. Well, he's their team coordinator. He's the one who calls them up and gets them all.
Well, if you
together.
could get me in contact with him, we would love to have Willie on Friday.
I will do that.
He's always been one of my.
A week to get his contact information.
Okay, just whatever you can.
Just because my contact is, he's out of state in Hawaii this week. So Willie was just a character. He looked great. He was very humorous, but what really struck me, and I'm grasping right now at the player's name because he didn't have the name recognition of Willie Fleming or Bob Jeter. But he was a young black kid from Detroit, who saw the 56 team in the Rose Bowl while still in high school. And he said to his mom as they watched the game, that's who I want to play for. Forrest Evashevsky started 7 black players in the Rose Bowl. When it's hard for younger people to really grasp this, but that was unheard of for any NCAA football team at the time.
Yeah, no, it was. It was really unusual. When you saw Ozzie Simmons, and I wrote in my story, he came to Iowa because an Iowa alumni saw him playing high school down in Texas in the early 30s and said, hey, my alma mater, you'll have a chance. Down there, none of the schools in the South would have given him the time of day. Iowa, he and his brother hopped on a train, rode up here, and the rest is history. They came up here, and now, he didn't play his freshman year, and he had some catching up to do academically because he didn't go to the strongest school. But once he got his academics in order, and it wasn't all just hugs and kisses for him, even at Iowa. He left the team briefly in 1936, the senior year, after they got crushed by Minnesota because he felt he was kind of unfairly criticized for the loss by the head coach. But he came back. It was just an emotional thing. He came back and played in the last 2 games, and what I thought was neat, he had a 74-yard touchdown run in a huge upset over Temple. So to me, that was another example of him staying the course during a bad time. He finished what he started and what have you. But no, Forrest Evashevsky, that's one of the things my mom loved about him. My mom was very into racial equality, and she was a hardcore Democrat growing up, and she always thought she loved the fact that Forrest Evashevsky stood for racial equality. Now, in
funny
fairness,
little side story.
He wanted to win too, and
Earl Murphy is right.
Yeah, and part of the reason Evie used those players is because they were good.
Right.
So
Yeah, he didn't necessarily see color. He saw wins
Touchdowns
and
and tackles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Earl Murphy has a really interesting story. I mean, Iowa wasn't the state of Iowa, and even here in Iowa City, we weren't that racially liberated, if you will, when Ozzie Simmons played here. In fact, the black players, the black students, were not allowed to live in the dorms, and they had to live well,
they couldn't travel. They had to stay in different hotels and everything. Yeah, lots of stuff.
But here in Iowa City, they had to live down on South Dubuque Street, across from what's now the county administration building. They have preserved that old building, that old house, which was essentially a black students' hotel or hostel.
To be honest with you, I'd rather have lived there than in the dorms, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, I seriously, I would have. I mean, I don't.
At that time, the Irish were also those who had to live on the other side of the track.
So you're saying I would have been living right down there with Ozzie Simmons?
Earl Murphy lived right next door.
And I would have been happier than living in the dorms. So we actually did the blacks a favor by saying, hey, you don't have to live in the dorms. If I was a white guy back then, I would have said, this is discrimination. Why can't we live in a house off? I mean, wouldn't you have rather? I lived in the dorms for 2 years. I had some good times, but by the end of my second year in the dorms, I was ready to kill myself and everybody around me. It got old after a while.
Well,
I did not know that about the Irish. I did not realize that. So who could live in the dorms?
Earl became a Hawkeye fan as a young kid, with polio no less, when Ozzie and some of the other black players would take him across the street to that property that the county administration building sits on now, and they would play football, and they would carry him like a football and just incorporate him into their games. And he became a huge fan, and years later, in fact, in 1958, when Iowa played at Wisconsin, Earl was a grown man, married with his wife and kids, and they were in Madison for the game that year when the Hawkeyes ended up being national champs. And sometime after kickoff, two distinguished-looking black men came and sat down next to Earl and his wife, and it was Ozzie Simmons and Duke Slater.
Wow.
Just by happenstance, they sat, and when Earl introduced himself, Ozzie said, "You're that little white boy with polio." And they renewed a friendship that lasted a lifetime. At that point, it was really kind of circle of life stuff.
I saw Earl at Fry Fest.
Did you?
Yeah, he was out at
95 years old and still going strong. Shows up every Monday for the Monday morning quarterback luncheon, and
I used to piss him off when I worked at the Press Citizen.
Yeah, well, you weren't Al Grady, so
I wrote. I definitely wasn't Al Grady.
Well, you know what? Earl got over that.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, hell, I used to piss off John Ballmer. I pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah. Because you weren't Al Grady.
Yeah, you pissed Bud off.
Bud, yeah. No, you're right. But there was people between me and Al Grady. I mean, it's not like I replaced Al Grady. I mean, he was gone at least 4 or 5 years before I even got here. But no, there was a part of that because Al. But the longer I read Al at the end, Al was not a complete homer like he's made out to be. I mean, there were times where he would be critical. At times, I remember reading his stuff.
He would not. It wasn't his nature.
No, but he would call them out at times. Maybe he changed a little bit at the end too. I know, but no, for the most part, I mean, Al was sunshine and hugs and kisses.
Well, I mean, there's only so sunshiny you can be when you don't have a winning program for 18 years.
So how was Al during the 70s?
He did his very best to.
He did tried his best. I remember reading Al Grady.
I'm just trying to picture myself during an 0-11 season.
Well, I remember the narrative on Frank Lauterbur. I can't remember who said it, but I think it might even have been a national pundit said that the 40-point game against Iowa is over. Meaning
not necessarily a victory?
Defense is coming to Iowa. The 40-point game against Iowa is over.
Jesus. That was his kind of battle cry coming in here?
He was
what else could you do, though, at that time?
Yeah, but they were bad when Lauderbeer took over, but they were much worse when he left. He took them to their depths, didn't he?
Yeah.
Ray Nagel, Ray
Nagel would have gotten it done if he had the administration
had
support.
not been meddling and being divisive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ray Nagel was close.
But
Yes,
see,
he
that's
was.
Al came from a different era, as did people like Earl Murphy.
Oh, I know.
And these guys sat down on Mondays over coffee and talked about the Hawkeye game.
I will say, though, there's a lot more Al Grady type writing going on now. There's a lot. I mean, if you look at Nebraska coverage and even some of there's a lot more of we're supporting more than we're informing. You know, there's a little bit of it's. I think the internet has kind of brought some of that rah-rah back.
I think you're right.
See Nebraska reporters show up at football games with Nebraska gear on.
Yeah, I think that's blown out of. I mean, the hardcore beat writers and stuff like the guy who just retired, Lee Barfnick. I never saw him wear stuff like that, and he was critical. But no, there's some, and but I think some of those are like maybe someone working for the Nebraska Scout site or and Nebraska. Their media is. I mean, the Omaha World Herald. Like I said before, I respect those guys. They're good writers, but and I think sometimes when you're doing it, you just don't realize they are so biased. I mean, they're just incredibly positive, and just everything is a search for the 90s again, you know, and what are we going to do to get back to the 90s and what have you. But that's just, I think you got to do whatever sells, I guess, and I write way more positive than I do negative. Even at the Press Citizen, I did that. It was probably 90% to 10%, but that 10% stands above all the other 90 because it stands out more. Now, I will say, and I also think I got kind of a bad rap or a rap as being a Hawk hater because of the Alford stuff. I mean, because there were a lot of Iowa fans who stuck with Alford through a lot until it got to the point where we couldn't do it anymore. I took a lot of grief because of my treatment of Alford, but he ends up being what I said he was. And I was directly impacted because of a family situation.
Yeah.
But no, I had a lot of Iowa fans who didn't speak, didn't like me during the heat of the Alford stuff because they felt that I was going up against a good man who was a good Christian. That was a bunch of crap.
Yeah, well, a lot of hindsight now, and we know better.
Yeah, no, and UCLA can have him.
Speaking of knowing better, Captain.
Yeah.
How will you be celebrating the 77th birthday of Chubby Checker today?
You know,
will you be twisting or shouting?
Well, he's shouting. I like him. He's
still alive?
Yeah. He's a nice guy. He was.
Let's have him on
Monday. He was here like what, 8 years ago or something? 7 years ago
in Coralville.
Yeah,
it was longer than that.
Can we have two guests on?
I think so.
Can we have two guests on at the same time?
I think we were there then, weren't we?
We were.
Can we have two guests on at the same time on different phone? We should have Chubby Checker and Willie Fleming on at the same time. Because I bet you anything Willie Fleming listened to Chubby Checker. What do you think?
I'll bet he'd sure.
Yeah.
Who do you like more, Chubby Checker or Fats Domino?
Fats.
Never.
Fats by far.
Fats Domino, yeah.
What about
Minnesota?
Minnesota?
More of a musician.
Yeah.
What about Minnesota Fats?
I like him.
I like him.
Fats.
I remember watching him on Sundays. World of Sports.
No,
playing
I
pool.
like Minnesota
big cigar, big massive pizza laying right there.
Pizza sounds
Lindsey
good.
Buckingham, Fleetwood Mac, 69 years old today.
Very underrated musical performer.
Great
Underrated guitarist. Wouldn't you agree, Tom?
Yes.
Lindsey Buckingham.
Absolutely.
And wrote the
Underrated,
greatest.
yes.
And wrote the greatest song for a movie ever with Vacation. Holiday. That's the best. That thing just sticks in your head.
The late Stevie Ray Vaughan would have been 64 today.
Wow. He's been dead
He's been gone 28 years.
Man, that's
Holy
wow.
cow.
I didn't realize he'd been gone.
Well, I couldn't believe yesterday that Tom Petty's been gone a year.
Yeah.
That doesn't,
Prince has been gone for almost. I mean, he's been gone for
Isn't
even.
that just?
Yeah, it's just the Stevie Ray Vaughan though. I didn't realize he's been gone almost 30 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, really sad.
He died in a helicopter crash leaving Alpine Valley.
Yep.
I remember breaking into program.
Been to many concerts at that great venue, one of the best venues I've ever been to, but that's so sad. I was
Motley
not a huge
Crue drummer Tommy Lee is 56 years old today.
No, I'm just a little younger than Tommy Lee, and I couldn't name you one Motley Crue song.
Oh yeah, you could.
Girls.
Yeah.
You have to sing it for me to.
That's it.
I just did.
It's just them screaming.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I'm not sure if I've heard it. That's it though. That's their only.
That's it.
Because
I don't think
I know
could
they
name
had
a-
other stuff.
One of the most impressive concerts I ever saw was Motley Crue when Tommy Lee did his upside down roller coaster drum solo. they had a mini roller coaster set up, and while he's playing, his whole drum kit rises, turns upside down, and then just goes on a roller coaster ride while he's drumming.
Now, that would be kind of neat, but I don't
It
want to
was.
burst the bubble. I wouldn't cross the street to hear Motley Crue.
Oh, no.
You'd have to pay me $1,000 to go hear
I'm
Motley.
not paying you $1,000.
Who would you go see, Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses, if you had to see one of them?
Guns N' Roses, easily.
Yeah.
They did that September
I'll
Rain,
tell you,
right?
Motley Crue was a better show than Guns N' Roses.
What did I say?
Oh, I don't doubt that. I just don't. I don't know their music very well.
I said September Rain?
Yeah.
Okay.
November Rain.
But it's snow more in November, isn't it?
Not there. Evidently.
Gwen Stefani, 49 years
These
old.
people all have
today.
their birthdays today?
Seriously?
Yeah, no doubt.
She's big.
49
Let's
years
see.
old.
I would love to see Gwen Stefani. I think she'd be great.
Yeah, great show person.
Yep. Very
And
different.
Captain, you'll remember this. It was 63 years ago today when Captain Kangaroo first appeared on what TV network?
CBS.
Very good.
What
Also,
time? What time did it debut?
I want to say 7 a.m.
Well, you are wrong. It was 7:15 because they tried doing the morning news for 15 minutes.
What about the Little Riverbank? When was that on?
Huh?
The Little Riverbank. The little hamsters going around.
Oh, Tales of the Riverbank.
Tales of the Riverbank. I grew up on that. I remember my mom being, hey, shut up and watch the hamsters. She'd put me in front of the TV.
Yeah.
And there'd be these hamsters talking to each other.
Ironically, one other TV show, legendary TV show, debuted 63 years ago today, the Mickey Mouse Club.
I think
That
this,
was
I think this call started 63 years ago. Just kidding, Dirk. Just kidding.
Those hamsters. Do you remember them?
He knew it right away. I think there's a little Tales of
Well,
the...
I'll tell you why I remembered it, because I wrote a journal in high school called Tales of the Riverbank that I wrote I had poems and stories and how I...
so you were kind of odd.
How I rated the girls in the class and that kind of stuff.
Kavanaugh.
Oh, wow.
You were part Kavanaugh.
Oh, totally.
It was Kavanaugh.
Captain, your favorite character on Captain Kangaroo?
I didn't like Captain Kangaroo.
I didn't either.
actually.
I loved it.
I didn't
Every
like
day
it.
we had to watch it before going to school. I liked Grandfather Clock.
I like Dwayne Elliott and Floppy.
I didn't. Yeah. You know, I liked local TV. I liked the local kid shows. I liked Captain Ernie and stuff.
But what about when
I was
Mr.
so
Mouse
thrilled.
Mr. Moose dropped all the ping pong balls on Captain?
I was so thrilled when we had KFMH had contests and Captain Ernie would participate as judges. He'd be one of the judges.
I don't know any of this.
We used
Central
to race
Iowa.
home from
Quad
school to
Cities.
catch
Central
the Mickey
Iowa.
Mouse Club.
Yeah. You remember Marshall J?
No.
I do.
Steve?
Central Iowa.
Yeah.
All of them.
Little Riverbank, Jim Zabel, Beat the Bear. I'm a proud Central Iowan. Although now
Let's
I'm-
go to the races.
There you go. The Sunday bowling. Jim Zabel used to host a bowling show on Sunday. The guy worked every day. Every day. He did, so.
Well, gentlemen, I need to let you go and get back to work and let another caller.
All right,
phone
Dirk.
in, but
All
thanks
right.
for taking my call. Go
All right,
on. Keep
thanks.
the stinking dirty rodents.
There you
Yeah.
go. So do you pay him for that?
Those freaking hamsters.
Oh, I love the Little River Tales of the Riverbank.
Tales of the River.
I do. And there was a voiceover, kind of like a Mr. Rogers guy voice, doing the voiceover, right? Kind of explaining what the hamsters were doing.
Oh, no, the Tales of the Riverbank, had it remained, would have disqualified me from the Supreme Court instantly.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have.
Instantly.
Hello.
Hey, this is Chris in New York.
Uh-huh.
Question. Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Does Lonely Grandpa Dirk, does he, sit in front of Wikipedia and read these things off? What's ever happened on this day? Or does he have an Encyclopedia Britannica in front of him?
I'm guessing he
or
calls
does
it up,
just
though.
know it?
I'm guessing he just Googles it. And
He probably knows a little bit, but no, he researches it. Like, I've got this book, The History of Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
It's 365 pages, every significant thing that happened on that day. He may have something like that, but you can Google all. But no, I look at the birthdays sometimes because it lists all the famous birthdays. And I do remember looking at this, what is today, October 3rd, 4th?
Third.
I do remember looking, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of prominent people that were born on this day. But yeah, no, he's not like Rain Man when it comes to rock and roll stuff.
He seems like it.
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
I do like
call
songs.
back in and tell us more. But how old is Log D? Is he like? And you guys know him personally? It always seems like you guys do.
Yeah, I met him through these guys. I mean, he's what in early
Okay.
mid-60s. Tom?
I would say, early 60s.
A little younger
Does
than.
he have a bunch of grandkids?
He's got a bunch of kids.
He's got kids, and I don't know if they have kids.
I don't think so.
And where'd the lonely come from?
Well,
Is he-
maybe his
he's got-
oldest
he's
son
got-
might
yeah.
have.
Okay, and where'd the lonely come
He's got
from?
grandkids.
The lonely was here when I got here.
Pat, what's wrong with you that you don't like Motley Crue? I mean, Girls.
I just
all of-
don't-
Not even that album.
I hate
But,
heavy
like,
metal.
The early stuff.
I know, but I
the-
hate it
the-
all. I'm sorry, I
the
just hate it all.
debut album.
No.
Theater of Pain. Like all of those
No.
albums are classic. Shout
just
at the
not my
Devil album
thing.
is actually the best.
I'd rather listen to
I'm with you exactly,
I'd rather
Pat.
listen to country and rap than heavy
Absolutely.
metal.
Well,
and I
no,
don't
not
like
rap.
And I don't like
But-
and I don't like country or rap.
I've been actually listening to the Crew recently, and my wife has too. We were actually like on a Saturday night a few weeks ago, or I guess it was a Friday night because football would have been on. My wife and I actually watched YouTube videos of old Motley Crue videos, and then I started listening to them in the car. And my 6-year-old daughter, who also is taking guitar lessons and is into music, was singing along to Girls. And then I thought, maybe this isn't so good.
I interviewed-
The song basically. The song basically discusses the band members going to strip clubs. And they mention the strip clubs.
I interviewed Tommy Lee, and the interview lasted maybe a minute and a half. He was so obnoxious and
Was he
ridiculous.
wasted?
I just hung up on him. I mean, I did.
Yeah, and you guys ripped Jim Morrison for being obnoxious.
Hey,
no, Chris. My thing is, and these guys know it. My music, I'm pretty narrow-minded. I'm
Like
not
what
saying
you
I'm
like.
I'm not saying I'm narrow-minded. I remember when I was in the 80s was when I was in college. I remember when all these big hair bands came out. I didn't like any of the songs. I didn't like any of the. I mean, Poison, Rat,
I love that stuff.
Pantera, Dokken, all this stuff.
Yeah, I didn't like any of them.
Guns N'
Nothing
Roses,
Pantera,
Twisted
but-
Sister. I mean, Megadeth, Motorhead.
Oh,
none of it. I just didn't.
My first concert, my dad, when I was 11 years old in 1987, took me to see Whitesnake, and Great White opened for them, and that was awesome.
Yeah, I know it's
I
all
like
taste.
some of White Snake stuff, I will say.
Isn't Great White the one that had the
love it.
fire?
Yes, the fire,
Yeah,
yes.
that was sad. No, it's all taste too. I mean, do you like Steely Dan?
Yeah, sure.
Do you like the
I
Grateful
have
Dead?
very eclectic, wide-ranging music taste.
How
I
about
don't
like the
really do
Dead
that
and Pink
other than
Floyd
that.
and Neil Young,
I
Bob
love
Marley?
Pink Floyd. I mean, it's before my time. I was born in the late 70s, but
Yeah, and I was born in the mid '60s. So
did you like Tales of
But
the
I-
Riverbank? Do you remember what the hamster's name
Mortimer?
was? No.
Wasn't one of them Mortimer?
Hammy.
Hammy, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Who was
Hammy.
Mortimer?
Hammy Hamster. Mortimer Snurd was a puppet.
Boy, they really went on a lot. They spent a lot of time going with that Hammy, didn't they?
Yeah.
So no, it's Chris. It's just all about. That's what Tom's always saying. It's taste. It's all. That's
all-
the
you
beauty
like
of
what
music.
you like.
That's the beauty of music. You like what you like.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, I know.
actually did
I
have-
know.
I did have a question. I did have a Hawkeye-related
Sure.
question.
Yeah, let's go back
And
to the
this is for
Hawkeye.
you, Pat.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, so my question is, I've read about the press conference on Tuesday. What is your sense of this Hawkeye team coming out of the bye week and how they'll perform? Because if you look at the last two seasons, it's been bad. You know, in 2016, out of the bye week, they went to Penn State and had what I think is, outside of the 1999 season, that was probably the worst beatdown, worst performance of the Kirk Ferentz team.
Well, other than
On the road at
other
Penn
than
State.
at Wisconsin last year too, I thought at Wisconsin
Yeah,
was
good
even
point.
worse.
Oh, that was awful.
Because at Penn State they
maybe
did
that
at
was
least
the
have
worst.
some yards. No, I'm with you though.
At Penn State, I agree with you. Last year Wisconsin was worse. but
I'm with
at
you though.
Penn
I
State
agree.
was
And
one
what was
of
the other one? I can't remember.
16. And then last year against Northwestern, out of the
Okay.
that was
17
off
to
by
10,
two.
Yeah.
And
overtime.
It was just, but we almost won the game, but it was just a hapless offensive.
No, you're
performance.
right. You're right. My
And in
resp-
both of those games, you kind of thought, like, even in 2016, when they went to Penn State, I mean, we went into that game thinking we had a chance. You know, we had a chance,
yeah,
and it was destroyed.
I was not
And
as
last
optimistic.
year-
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess the last two seasons we've seen the post-bye week performance be terrible, and so I'm just curious what your thoughts are on how.
To be honest with you, I don't give that much thought because I think with Penn State, it had to do with the competition. The reason I'm more optimistic now, if they were getting ready to play at Penn State, I'd be like, gee, I'm really worried even coming off this bye. They're playing at Minnesota, a team that's depleted, a team that was lacking in certain key areas when the season began, but has since lost their two best players. And I guess the bye week, they didn't play a bye week before Michigan State last year and looked like crap.
Those Iowa teams weren't very good.
I just think some of that stuff, I think we're looking for reasons to explain losses. I've never bought into the bye week stuff. But no, the reason they lost to Penn State was just better. And they did play a bad game, but I don't think it was necessarily because of the bye week. I think too much is made of stuff
Those
like
were
that.
not great Iowa teams, folks. Yes, they won 8 games, but those teams both had serious
And wouldn't you agree,
issues.
though, that Northwestern and Penn State are both better than this particular Minnesota team?
Oh, absolutely.
That, to me, is a lot of it, Chris. That has more to do with it than having 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, if they were getting ready to play at Michigan right now, I'd be really worried even with a bye week, wouldn't you?
I think this team is considerably better than the last 2 Iowa teams were, personally.
I agree, and I saw what Ferentz said yesterday. He said basically that he thought that they have an opportunity over the next 8 weeks to do something special, right?
He did sort of say that. I think sometimes we take what he says, and I'm not ready to go as far as Tom yet because the team 2 years ago had C.J. Beathard, and I'm just not ready to say that this team's going to be considerably better than an 8-win team is saying this is a 10 or 11-win team, and I'm just not ready to go there yet. I just can't, because that, to me, is what considerably better than 8 wins.
But the 2016 team, to me, was a disappointing year because of the year we had before. And 2015 was great. It didn't end well. 2016, they never, with the exception of the Michigan game, I think they just.
But they did win 8 games, and I believe
did.
they did finish with a better conference record than last season.
They did.
I think part of the reason you're more optimistic about this team is because it's this team and it's now.
And there's still 8 more games.
But those
to go.
teams that we talked about were 3-1 at the worst at those times.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just not ready to go there yet because it seems like whenever we go there, they end up winning 7 or 8 games, and then you're left, gee, why didn't they meet my expectations? I need to see more. I just need to see more.
Yeah.
I do think they're going to win Saturday, but I think that says more about Minnesota than it says about Iowa.
Probably.
I think we'll know a lot more about this team after Saturday because if they're a really good team and they're going to win,
they'll
10
take
games,
care of business.
They're going to curb stomp them.
Yes.
And they will bounce back from that loss.
They'll be able to run. They'll be able to use play action, and they will win this game by at least 2 or 3 touchdowns.
If this is a tight game and they win 14-7 like they did a few years ago back there, then that's telling you to me that this is a 7 or 8 win team.
I agree.
So I think they'll win a lot.
I think we will, but I want to go the next 2 weeks and use that. I don't want to use Minnesota as the complete blanket statement. I want to see what they do the next week at Indiana. And then
Agreed.
So we'll see. But no, I still think this is an 8, possibly a 9-win team, but I just need to see more. I just need to see this team sustain a certain level of success. I was impressed with how they ran the ball against Wisconsin. They need to come up against Minnesota, run the ball, get at least 175, get play action going, and just be the better team. There's no excuse this year against Minnesota. I mean, and they've won.
Agreed.
They've beaten Minnesota recently, so they should win this game. I know I'm being overly optimistic, but Minnesota is a shell of the better Minnesota. And when I say better, Minnesota in our generation, a good team wins 8 and 9 games. I don't think this Minnesota team is anywhere close to that.
No.
So we shall see.
Well, anyway, guys, I'll let you go.
All right, Chris. Always enjoy the
Thank
call.
you, Chris.
Thanks. See you.
But no,
we will know more after Saturday.
Oh, I think we'll definitely learn about them on Saturday if they end up struggling or, God forbid, losing. Well, I don't know. We don't need to bring God into it, probably, do we, Captain?
Yes, we do.
Do we need to bring God?
Yes.
But if they struggle, but then part of me saying, guys, we do this every year. We try to make blanket statements based on one game. When all these teams do under Kirk Ferentz is surprise us every week with good and bad.
Good and bad.
I'm just to the point now where I don't try to make any statements until, 2006 they were 5-1 and they had Drew Tate and they won one more game after that. I mean, you just don't know.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Is this real or fake?
Fake.
You guys know where every week is bye week?
Okay.
You liked that one, didn't you?
I did too.
We both kind of got a kick out of that, and that just fuels him, and he'll be back.
I liked it.
So does we get the real one coming here now? Do they work in tandem?
Not necessarily.
What about the menus? What's going on with the menus? God, did you see my text message to you yesterday?
No.
I sent you a text message right when you had him on asking him questions about his sex life. I mean, I will say you got me to save money on lunch because I.
It's so much for lunch and probably dinner. No, I didn't.
It was
see that.
some of the most disgusting. I mean, they were asking.
I didn't hear it.
They were asking him in-depth questions about his sex life, and I just didn't need to hear it. It was not good.
He brought it up.
But it was inappropriate, and it was.
He brought it up.
It was kind of unpleasant.
He brought it up.
Well, he's getting more tail than the three of us combined. I promise you that. And we can throw Tommy Lang into that, too.
Yeah, and two of you are married. That's your problem. We got Ann and
they
Jan.
don't have anything else to do.
We got statements made by Ann and Jan, it looks like. No, but just on the, but I also, you got to consider, never mind. Let's just move on. Let's get back to the.
We got FedEx out front. I wonder what's going on with FedEx.
I think they're bringing a big box of money.
Maybe they are. It could be a political check.
It could be, or it could be the wrong size clock again.
You still haven't gotten that clock thing fixed?
Maybe it's the rug.
I just noticed that's too small for you?
Yeah.
That's fine. Tom, is that clock fine?
No.
It's too small.
I ordered a 12-inch.
What, did you get a 10-inch?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, imagine if those were pizzas. You'd be disappointed with the 10-inch when you wanted a 12-inch pizza.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, it's Randy.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Not too bad. So I was listening to you guys on Monday's podcast, and you were talking about how Don Patterson does some of the analytics and number crunching for
Kansas State.
Uh-huh. Who does that stuff for Iowa? Do you know?
Not offhand. I don't know. I'm
know
sure
either.
there are people.
Good question.
Hell, Don may do it for Iowa too. I don't know. I mean, he goes to all the Iowa games. I haven't asked him about that, but I will. But I'm not sure who exactly does it. I'm sure they do have people, but I mean, like I said, that is something to ask Don.
It's a great
on Monday.
question.
He might, because Don's not at Kansas State games. He watches Kansas State because Don goes to all the Iowa home games. So maybe he does do stuff like that for Kirk too, because Don goes to practice on a somewhat frequent basis.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know if they do those kind of things, the analytics stuff.
Yeah, no, I'll ask him. We'll ask him on Monday. We'll ask him.
Okay.
All right.
But that was about all I had today.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for the call.
I think they'll beat Minnesota pretty easily.
Well, what's your score?
I think it's probably going to be 38-10 or something like that. I think there's going to be at least 5 or 6 sacks.
Well, if they win 38-10 and have 5 or 6 sacks, everybody
That'd be
here's
great.
happy. I mean, then it's like I said, captain will be yelling, "Bring on Alabama!"
Yeah.
Bring on Alabama, and you better bring Ohio State for help. Will that be your battle cry? All right, Randy. Thanks.
All right, bye.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like a 31-10.
I had
something like
31-13, that 31-17, something like that.
Yeah.
I could see them maybe scoring a late touchdown or what have you. But like I said, and I'm not saying this stuff thinking that Iowa's on the rise and is on to something special. Minnesota is just not in a good situation right now with an inexperienced quarterback. And Rodney Smith was one of the best running backs in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And they don't have him. And Antoine Winfield was one of the best defensive backs in the Big Ten. They do have good receivers. Tyler Johnson's the real deal. This freshman named Bateman can make plays. So if the quarterback suddenly has a good game, you never know. You don't take anything for granted. Now, if they were getting ready to play Rutgers at Kinnick Stadium, I would take that win for granted. I would. I would assume victory. I wouldn't expect victory. I would assume victory if this was Rutgers playing here at Kinnick Stadium. There's no way they could lose to Rutgers here at Kinnick Stadium, I don't see. Now, Rutgers almost beat Indiana, but you watch. Indiana's going to give Iowa trouble next week.
Indiana gives us trouble. I don't know why, but they do.
I think part of it's Indiana always has good perimeter skill players.
Yeah.
In all the years. And sometimes if you get just enough blocking in the trenches, those skill players can do stuff. Kellen Lewis did a lot of stuff against Iowa on his own. Antoine Randall, James Harty. A lot of that stuff was just great individual skill players making plays.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of it came down to. So, and I don't think Minnesota I just don't think they have enough. And I do think Iowa's pretty good. I mean, they've got a lot of strengths, and a lot of those strengths are on defense. I will be stunned if Minnesota scores more than 17 points. I would really be surprised.
I think that would be very disappointing.
If they get in the 20s, I'm thinking some of it has to be turnover related. That's the thing. That's the one great equalizer. Turnovers could keep Minnesota in this game. They got to be careful.
Oh, for sure.
Got to value that football early. They need to avoid turnovers, and they need to avoid letting that. They need to get the crowd. Because my guess is there's going to be a pretty good Minnesota crowd there. They're 3-1.
I would guess.
I think there's going to be a lot of people. P.J. Fleck was very complimentary of Iowa.
Yeah, he was.
In his talk, I listened to a little bit of his talk, and what he talked about was the culture here at Iowa and at Wisconsin. He did bring up a lot of interesting points. Wisconsin's had it for 30 years. Iowa's had it for 40. I mean, Wisconsin's had different coaches, but the one constant has been your favorite, Lord Barry.
Absolutely.
And he's been the one common denominator up there. And then Iowa's had Hayden and Kirk. And then P.J. Fleck's like, since that time we've had, look at all the head coaches we've had. You can't build a culture and sustain it. That's what he's trying to do. And I will say, for a lot of the interviews I've seen of him, I thought he was pretty good in what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't just always, he's always usually trying to push some self-promotion narrative, but this was more complimentary towards the opponent, and that's good. That avoids bulletin board stuff, because sometimes I think PJ gives the opponent easy incentive with some of the stuff he says. But I think he realizes, too, that he doesn't have a very good team right now.
Well, he has to realize that, but that doesn't mean we've seen enough over the years of Iowa teams laying an egg for seemingly no reason at all.
Boy, if they lose here, what would their post-game reaction be like? If they
oh, my God, it'll be Armageddon.
Because a lot will bring up the 42-13 loss at Maryland. That's not helping Iowa the way Minnesota played at Maryland. No, a loss it would be miserable.
Well, and lose 2 trophy games in a row to arguably our 2 biggest rivals.
Yeah, no, I hadn't even thought about that.
It would be horrible.
It would not be good around here,
no.
And they would be 3-2. But I don't know. I'm just not very worried about them losing. And that's weird for me. I don't usually feel that way going into a Big Ten road game. But like I said, this is more Minnesota than Iowa.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to be the 2:30 kickoff. I mean, it's I'm getting used to those, and I'm starting to treat the 2:30s almost like they're 11 because so many other games start so late.
Well, and then we're going to be going back to the 11s here pretty quick.
Which I need one of those.
Indiana's going to be 11.
I'm looking forward to going home after an Iowa football game at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and writing my story from home instead of just being in the press box till 1 in the morning. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Indiana's an 11. Maryland's an 11.
Tyler's wedding's the Indiana day.
Yeah?
I'm not going to Indiana. I've got two stringers hired to cover that game for me.
Are you going to his wedding?
Yeah, I'm going to go. His wedding's at 4, the Indiana game. But it's not like I can just go to his wedding. I mean, I'm going to have to go because I have to take all the copy that's being sent to me from the games and post and edit and get all that stuff worked out. But no, I'll be going to his wedding is at 4 o'clock on the 13th. Tyler.
Hey.
What do you think of that, Captain?
They grow up.
They grow up. Oh, my God, he's almost 30. It's not like he's 28 years old.
That would have been my mother's birthday. Well, it is my mother's.
So he's getting. Maybe that's why I'll ask him if that had any influence on their day.
Yeah.
Picking.
My son's birthday is the 12th.
Oh wow, that's weird because my sister's birthday, I believe, is on the same day as my parents' anniversary. She was born a year after they got married. That's kind of unusual.
I started radio on a June the 4th, and I went
my
to
nephew's birthday.
KFMH on a June the 4th.
That's my nephew's
Interesting.
birthday.
Isn't that?
So, and
your daytime friend.
Who is KFMH?
No, the station I started at.
It's getting warm in here.
It had to,
Geneseo?
It had to sign off.
It's getting warm and moist in here. I think you're going to have to turn your air on.
It should be on.
It's warm. It's warm and moist, though.
Yeah.
It's not just warm, Captain. It's
I
moist.
thought you didn't want to talk about Justin's sex life.
Oh. By the train tracks.
Yikes.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hey.
And can I assume that wasn't Elle McPherson laying down on the train tracks?
No, not at all.
Or even Sally Struthers, for that matter?
No. I would imagine not.
All right, go ahead, caller.
All right. A few kind of diverse comments. First off, Dirk was talking about how Iowa City was settled and the Irish lived in the South End.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell how it was settled by looking at where the 3 Catholic churches were.
Huh?
you had St. Wenceslas with the Czechs in the north end, and St. Mary's for the Germans in between, and then in the south end, or the other side of the tracks, where my Irish ancestors lived, were St. Patrick's Church.
Okay, interesting.
That is interesting.
I hadn't really thought about that, but, there is something to that, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yep. So, at any rate, there's that.
How come nobody liked the Irish? What did we ever do wrong?
Well, we worked on the railroad, a lot of us.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
So guys like Justin can have sex on it, is that?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know, it's okay. Then I didn't catch the whole thing about the Davenport Nazis, but all I remember when I was a boy growing up in the North End on Ronald Street, I must have been, it would have been mid-60s, so I was probably around 12 years old. And the Nazi Party, American Nazi Party people came through the neighborhood. And at night, they had a march, and I remember my dad standing on our front porch watching them and just kind of letting them know we weren't going to tolerate them. They left their card laying in the street, and I remember it was the American Nazi Party with their Davenport address, and the quotation, "You see, we're here," end quote. And I thought, oh, for God's sake, yeah, you're not here.
What year was that?
That would have been the mid-'60s, probably 65, 66.
Yeah.
I would have been 11 or 12 years
it
old.
it was 60. I think it was 65 because they had a gigantic conference in Davenport.
Okay.
And some of the conference took place at they had speakers at the Masonic Temple.
I mean, it was only 20 years after the end of the war. I mean,
yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. God.
Wow.
So, anyway.
That's
so
interesting.
I remember that. And then talking about Earl Murphy and the different people that he had gotten to meet and all. I remember Grandpa came out from Davenport on the train because he worked for the Rock Island, and he came out with his friend for homecoming, and it was Iowa against Purdue. I want to say Bob Greasy was the quarterback for Purdue, but anyway, he had to pick up his ticket to the window over at the field house when the athletic offices were there in front of the field house. Mm-hmm. And Grandpa introduces me to this large man who was very distinguished looking, and I had no idea at the time, other than Rick, this is Duke Slater.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I got to meet him. He had been a Chicago
wasn't he a judge?
Court judge.
Yeah.
He was a municipal court judge in Chicago.
Just a great story.
And,
I remember when the ticket office was there because my dad's office was just 10 feet from where
so you're talking
the ticket
about
office was.
The little circle there by Slater and all. Are we talking about right in that area?
Yes.
Yeah, right up in the front there.
Okay.
Yep. That's where all the athletic offices were. The athletic director, the Tom, your dad.
Yeah.
Was Slater there then?
Buzz Graham.
Was Slater there yet? Was it built yet, Slater? The big
No.
hill?
No, it was not yet built.
So there was just a big hill with nothing on it then, or what was there a road?
I'm trying to remember when Slater and Reno were built, because they were originally built Reno 1 and Reno 2, and then Reno 2 became Slater Hall.
I think it was
Hillcrest
might have been late 60s, early 70s.
Hillcrest was there by then, right?
I think.
Hillcrest was there.
Okay.
The quad was there.
So what was
South Quad?
What was on the hill there? What was the school? The dentistry school wasn't there yet, was it? The school, or no? The law school right there? Was it there to?
No,
those were houses.
Yeah,
those were houses.
Was it the dentistry school there?
I got mixed up. The dentistry school, yeah.
And they had a road that kind of went down to Riverside Drive there too.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing how much that's changed.
They eventually put a barricade up.
Right. That's right.
Because there were problems with people navigating it, I think, when not sober. And, they put up barricades, I remember, and then it went down there to between where the law school is now and Hillcrest.
That's
but
interesting.
those were houses up there because one of my friends' dad came on faculty. They had moved here from Pittsburgh, and they rented one of those houses up there where it's parking lot now for the law school.
Okay.
And all. And then they eventually bought a house down in University Heights.
Interesting.
A few blocks
I always
away.
like hearing about the history. Would your dad be stunned if he came back now? What would?
I'd
if
be
somebody dropped your
completely
dad
blown
off
away.
at the intersection of Burlington and Riverside, would he just be blown away?
Yeah,
by
completely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
sure.
It's amazing
Yeah.
what has happened.
Yeah, it is indeed. Well, I'll let you guys
All right,
go.
thanks for
You
sharing
take
that.
care.
Yeah, great call.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think my dad
Bye-bye.
would be the most amazed with the growth of the hospital.
You'd have to be.
And then, of course, how Kinnick has
And the
changed.
press spot in the north
Yeah.
end zone. Yeah, no, that would be.
And you working here?
Well, he said impressed, not depressed.
No, he would have been very supportive of radio.
What would he think of the All Hawkeye segment?
You'd like it?
What do you think of Justin on the railroad tracks?
He would probably not like that a lot.
I just, like I said, I was actually.
I'm glad I missed that.
I did not eat.
No, it wasn't.
It
He's
was
making it like
no, it was unpleasant.
It was typical.
The imagery.
It was typical Southern Justice.
It reminded me of the movie The River's Edge.
I've told you many times, you're the reason why that continues.
And the reason is you. Yeah.
He's the reason.
I am.
I wanted to.
I am guilty.
Oh, there was stretched mean. Remember, you were mean for a while. And then Tom threw out the life preserver.
Yeah.
Southern Justin gets good Q ratings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they are.
What are Q ratings?
He's recognizable. He's known.
He's on Lex and Terry.
Yeah.
Us. Was Chip stationed down in Burlington, KCPS.
Not anymore. Hello.
Hey, it's Rain Dirk.
What's up?
Slater and Reno were both opened in 1968.
All
Now, do you know it off the top of your head?
Right.
It wasn't Slater, though.
No, Dirk, is that
No, it was Reno, too. But
yeah, I live
correct.
Do you know that off the top of your head, or do you have Google open?
No.
Because someone called in and wanted to know if you know all that stuff, or if you're reading off Google. And we guess
like you
probably a
have,
little of both.
I do a little bit of research.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I got this rock and roll book that every day I could look up before I came in here and say, hey, there. And I do recall this was a busy day for. He named off a lot of famous birthdays.
he sure did.
I mean, Gwen.
Yes, I am a grandpa 2 times over with a new one expected later this month.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. And the origin of Grandpa Dirk was shortly after Steve became a grandpa.
Oh. Okay.
How old is your oldest grandchild, Steve?
She's 12.
Yeah. And my
12.
grandson
She's going to be a
is
teenager.
11.
Okay,
And
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's when I started calling myself Grandpa Dirk. And Michael Mara is the one who coined the term lonely old Grandpa Dirk.
he
Because
did.
I must be lonely if I'm calling in.
Oh, I get it. Okay. All right, now it's all coming together. I get it. All right.
My granddaughter is going to be 13 years old in January, and
better-
she has yet to hear a phone call come into 16.
All right, that's good. But I was going to say you better keep her away from the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Or at least Bill Wyman.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got.
All right,
Thanks, man.
This is a Hawkeye podcast.
Yeah.
We've had some. We've done some cutting edge analysis.
Oh, this has been good.
Yeah.
Hello.
I think Dirk fails to get the irony that people don't really want him to call in. They just wonder, you know.
Oh, we
harsh.
like him calling in.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah.
Well,
you can be cut off too.
Oh God, here we go. It's 10:30. Here we go.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I research all of my calls.
Except that one, evidently.
I don't even know where to go with this thing now. I just don't know where to go.
Like anything basketball-wise.
Well, we have media day next Monday. We have Fran at like 1:45, and then players And I actually reached out to them and said, if anyone associated with the basketball team wants to come on the radio before media day, meaning now we're down to Friday and Saturday, and I didn't get an answer yet. I just said something yesterday. If Fran wanted to come on Friday and talk, but I could also completely understand if they don't with season started. But if he wanted to come on and promote the team or have some assistant or anything, they're more than willing to come on Friday. I told him between 9 and 11. I'm not expecting it, but I figured I'd throw out the opportunity. But yeah, practice has started. I have not heard anything. And I guess the one good thing is nobody's been injured. I think we would have heard something.
I would think so.
And my attitude with basketball is I got to wait and see. I don't think they're going to be as bad as last year. I just don't see that happening again. But I also don't think they're going to go 14-6 either, or 13-7.
No. So if we go 5-15 in the Big Ten, how hot is the seat?
Oh, the seat's very hot, but I still think he gets the next year.
Yes.
To try to cool the seat. I don't think under almost any circumstance. Now, if they go 0-8, 0-20, and 5 players leave the team or something, I don't think that's going to happen. But no, he still has another really bad season in him. He's earned that, in my opinion.
I agree.
And what I'm throwing in there too is Gary Barta is very slow to act on stuff like this. They owe him a ton of money. He has his body of work, I still think, speaks for itself. But 5-15, he would be definitely one of the hottest seats in the country.
Yeah.
And he would have to get them to the NCAA tournament in 1920 to save his job.
2020,
to me. So this is 18-19.
Oh, I got you.
That would be 1920.
Yeah.
To me, you would have to get them to the NCAA tournament if they have another stinker of a year this year. So we'll see. I've got them going like 10-10, 11-9. But so
you've got a NIT probably.
I don't know if they get to the NIT. I mean, NIT doesn't get you. Nebraska. NIT. I don't think Nebraska was even a number 1 seed in the NIT at 13-5. Were they? I don't think they were.
No, I don't think they were.
NIT is not a guarantee at 500 anymore.
No, you're right.
It's different. So I don't know. I just can't go from 4-14 to 12-8 or 13-7. And I'm not sure 13-7 would get you into the tournament. If 13-5 doesn't get you in, and let's face it, Iowa's non-conference schedule is better than a year ago, slightly, but it's still not that good. I mean, it's okay.
I mean, if we had maybe only lost 1 preseason and got 13 Big Ten wins, I would say that would be good enough.
Well, it wasn't good enough for Nebraska last year.
That's Nebraska.
Well, I mean, Nebraska and Iowa are pretty much lumped in the same.
Was Nebraska only had 1 loss in the preseason?
I can't remember, but they were 13-5, but they got hurt by playing a bad soft non-conference schedule. And you've seen Iowa's non-conference schedule this year. It's okay.
It's better.
It's better, but it's not something that's going to help them if they're on the bubble. And to go from 4 to 13 is 9.
It's huge.
I'm just not ready to.
Oh no, I'm not
see
either.
That happen. But there's some fans. There's a lot of fans out there that think they're ready to explode, but I think they're basing that on one thing: loyalty and being biased Hawkeye fans, which is fine. But I need to see it. I just need to.
No, I'm with you.
I just need to see this team play defense before I can say it's going to get better.
I mean, in theory, you get Joe Wieskamp and Connor. And C.J. Frederick, we have a better.
That's more depth. I think that's better backcourt. It's more depth, but I wouldn't call any of those 3 a defensive stopper.
Yeah,
and that's to me. I just need to see him play defense as a team. I need to see him play defense individually, and we'll see. I mean, I'm going to stick to my anywhere from 8 to 11 conference wins. That would be 8-12 to 11-9. That's kind of where. And I'm taking that for me to say 11-9. That's 7 more wins than only playing 2 more games. So I'm actually thinking things are going to get better too. So I'm just not ready. I don't know. I think there are some Iowa fans out there, if you pressed them, would say that I think we're going to make the NCAA tournament. And I'm like, well, what are you basing that on? Well, look how good Tyler Cook is. Look how good Okay, we said the same thing last year. I need to see this team mesh.
No, absolutely.
And Garza's not going to be back till November, from what I'm hearing. And I mean, he had a pretty big cyst removed from his abdomen, and that's not simple surgery. And so, I mean, he may be kind of behind the clock for a while. I mean, and to me, Luka Garza arguably is the most important player on the team. I think by the end of the year, he was probably their most consistent player.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see. I'm excited. Media Day's next Monday. Big Ten basketball Media Day's weird. That's on Thursday. Doesn't make any sense to have them that close together, but it is what it is. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, Fran, do you think Fran's going to be optimistic on Monday?
I think
spectacular, incredible. What will we
I
hear
think
more?
Spectacular will be the buzzword.
And outstanding. No, you're right though, and that's what you need though. I mean, Fran does a great job of promoting, and I will say when they do lose, Fran doesn't make excuses. I mean, I remember last year the media wanted to feed him this narrative. You know, Fran, yeah, you're struggling, but look how young you guys are. Jordan's only a sophomore. Tyler's only a sophomore. And Fran's like, these guys all played a ton last year.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm not buying into that. We're young stuff anymore. I respected Fran for that because a lot of coaches, well, thanks, guys. Thanks for throwing me that life preserver. You're right. We're young. We're inexperienced. But they weren't, and Fran wouldn't go there, and I respected him for
We
that.
were half of a great team and half of a terrible team last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
But guys,
offensively, we were pretty good.
they were fine. But Jordan Bohannon, Tyler Cook, Isaiah Ma, those guys all played a ton the year before. So by the time they got to the Big Ten, I remember Fran saying, guys, we're not young. I mean, we may be young class-wise with sophomore, but he goes, these guys have played a ton of basketball. So like I said, I thought that was the right thing. And so we'll see. I mean, but no, we're getting into a real busy time. We got Women's Media Day coming later the month. We got Iowa Wrestling Media Day in early November. I mean, these next 2 months are
Gonna get busy.
And we got Halloween coming up. Halloween. I always like Halloween.
That's Molly's favorite.
It's probably my favorite
holiday.
too. But the problem is now I'm just so busy during Halloween I can't enjoy it. But I loved it as a kid.
Hey, 1 week from Friday, Spooktacular savings come early.
Oh,
Actually, it's the fall savings auction.
Yeah, with Spooktacular savings.
I thought it was the Spooktacular.
I'm tying in Spooktacular.
It's the 12th of October, so it's too early for Spooktacular.
You know what it is for me?
Yeah?
It's a Friday morning off. Auctions.
We should make you.
Auctions
Should make
ass.
you come in later.
But
We
can
usually
I-
get done around 10:30.
And then go till like 1?
Yeah, go to 1.
Auctions rule, though. They really do. I love auctions.
So, what do you think Fran will say Monday?
That I think he'll say that
we had a phenomenal off season.
The kids are all locked in.
Okay, so he's going to use the word phenomenal.
Oh,
This is what Justin said yesterday about sex on the track.
All right.
Isn't that a Neil Diamond song?
Sex on the
tracks.
Love them. Let's take this because
this will be this is the best call.
I
of the
think
day.
this is going to be a really good call.
Hello.
The history of Halloween dates back to the 16th century. And people used to dress up and go around and tip over outhouses. And well, I made that part up. Germanic tribes, where was I here? Germanic tribes. Funny history. Some Germanic tribes observed history by dressing up in the Ku Klux. No, that's a different page. Wait a minute, I got skipped ahead. Anyway, what do you think about the game this week?
Hawkeye.com. Get your subscription today.
1-800-800